Welcome everyone. I'm excited to welcome you to today's presentation. Today, we will explore the fascinating topic of Tawhid, Asma wa Sifaat. This is a fundamental aspect of our faith that deepens our understanding of Allah's names and attributes. Over the next few slides, we'll cover the key concepts, their significance, and how they impact our spiritual journey. So, let's get started and delve into this important subject together. Let's take a moment to understand the core of believing in Allah's names and attributes. Allah, in the Quran and Sunnah, has informed us about himself, including his names and attributes. When we believe in these, it's crucial to do so correctly, without altering their meanings. We accept these names and attributes as they are, without canceling or denying any of them. It's important to remember that trying to understand their true essence or root is not part of our approach. We don't give them a specific image or form, because that could lead to misunderstandings. For example, the Bible says God rested after creating the heavens, but that's an anthropomorphic description that makes God seem like humans, which is not correct. Allah is beyond human characteristics, and he does not need rest. This leads us to the concept of Tawhid, our fundamental belief in Allah's oneness. Tawhid is built on three key foundations. First, we put Allah above any human being and avoid attributing any imperfections to him. Second, we believe in the names and attributes exactly as given in the Quran and Sunnah, without subtracting anything or trying to explain them away. Third, we avoid giving these names and attributes any human-like form or picture. In essence, our belief is rooted in reverence, submission, and maintaining the purity of Allah's divine nature. This understanding helps us keep our faith correct and aligned with the teachings of Islam. In this slide, I want to emphasize the importance of maintaining the unity of Allah's name and attributes. It's crucial that we refer to him exactly as the Prophet described, without trying to explain away his names or give them alternative meanings. Sometimes, people interpret these attributes in a way that leads to rationalizations which ultimately deny Allah's existence. For example, when Allah describes himself as the living, some rationalists compare that to human life and argue that God is neither living nor existing. But that's a misunderstanding. The attribute, living in relation to Allah, is not the same as human living. It's a name that signifies a different, absolute reality. We must understand that any attribute Allah mentions is to be taken in its absolute sense, free from human shortcomings or deficiencies. Another key point is that we should not invent new names for Allah or attribute qualities to him that he has not described himself with. For instance, although the Quran mentions Allah's anger in some verses, such as in Surah Al-Fath, it's incorrect to take the name Al-Ghadib, the angry one, and treat it as a specific name that Allah named himself. Instead, we recognize that his anger is a part of his actions or qualities, but not a name he chose for himself. Overall, this slide reminds us to be cautious in how we interpret Allah's names and attributes, always referring back to his own descriptions and understanding them in their absolute, unaltered sense. This helps us preserve the proper concept of Allah and avoid misconceptions that could lead us astray. Now, let's discuss some important principles regarding how we talk about Allah's attributes. First and foremost, it's crucial not to attribute to Allah anything that resembles his creation. For example, saying, God slept on the seventh day would be inappropriate because it assigns a human-like attribute to Allah, which is not correct. We must remember that giving creation-based attributes to Allah is a form of misunderstanding, or what we call in Islamic theology, associating partners with him. The key principle here is to rely on the Quranic verse. There is nothing like him, from Surah Ash-Shura, verse 11. This reminds us that Allah's attributes are unique and incomparable. When we speak of faculties like hearing and seeing, these are human attributes, but they are ascribed to Allah without any comparison to his creation. We should accept only the obvious meanings of these attributes and avoid overinterpretation that might lead us to imagine Allah as having a form or qualities like humans. It's also important to understand that we do not give Allah's attributes to his creation unless they are specifically prefixed with abd, meaning servant of. For example, Ar-Raf or Ar-Rahim are names of Allah, and we can only refer to his servants with these names when we say Abd Ar-Raf or Abd ar-Rahim. We should never say Adur Rasul or slave of the messenger for prophets or saints, nor should we use the term Abdi for those under our charge, as the Prophet forbade this. Another vital point is that attributing divine qualities to prophets or saints, such as having no beginning or end, or knowledge of the unseen, is considered shirk. Only Allah possesses these attributes fully and completely. Some groups, like certain Shiite sects and some Sufis, hold the misconception that their imams or sheikhs have divine infallibility, meaning they can do no wrong, know everything, and control destiny. But from an Islamic perspective, this is not correct and can lead to dangerous misunderstandings. In summary, we must be very careful in how we attribute qualities to Allah and His creation, ensuring we follow the Quranic guidance and avoid any form of exaggeration or misrepresentation. This helps us maintain the purity of our faith and keeps our understanding aligned with Islamic teachings. Let's consider the key points here. The first verse from Surah Al-Anbiya highlights that if there were gods besides Allah in both the heavens and the earth, corruption would have inevitably taken over. This emphasizes the concept of divine singularity and the perfection of God's sovereignty. Then we look at Surah Al-Isra, which clearly states that God has not taken any son, nor is there any deity with him. If there were multiple deities, each would try to control or influence creation, leading to conflict. Muslim scholars often illustrate this idea with a simple yet profound example. Imagine if there were more than one God governing the universe. Because each would have their own will, disagreements would be unavoidable. Suppose one God decides that a certain person should die, while another wants that person to stay alive. There are only 3 logical outcomes. First, both gods could get their way, but that's impossible, because a person can't be both alive and dead at the same time. Second, their wills could cancel each other out, resulting in no change. Yet that's also impossible because a person must be either alive or dead. There's no in-between. Third, if one God's will overrides the others, then the weaker God is not truly divine, because there's something stronger than him. All of this leads us back to the reality we observe in the universe. It functions smoothly and according to consistent natural laws. This seamless operation points to the existence of one, and only one, supreme God who governs everything. So, the key takeaway is that the universe's order and harmony strongly indicate the oneness of God, reinforcing the core message of this presentation.